Hello, welcome to Board Games with Niramas. I'm Joseph or Niramas, and I'm here today to demonstrate how Gloomhaven digitally works on Steam. I've been playing this in some live streams and some playthroughs, but I also thought it could be a good idea to do a how to play, so that if you're new to Gloomhaven, if you haven't played the board game, but you are interested in the digital game on Steam, then you get a chance to sort of familiarize yourself with how the mechanics of the game work and what to do in the start. There's a how to play here, and there's an explanation here. You can check that out, of course. You can learn how everything works and so on. But if you're not into reading all that stuff, then just tag along with this video. So what you want to do here in the early access, because this is early access, so we don't have the tutorial yet. That will help out new players once it comes, and then we don't have the campaign, of course, and the multiplayer, but we have the adventure. So let's start here. Now, there's a few different parties you can choose here. You can do down here in the right corner, you can do change party. And you can see here that there's 2 and 3 and 4 hero parties, but to get the 4 ones, you need to defeat bosses and so on. Now, to do the 2 hero party, there are a few different difficulty levels as indicated here by the skull symbols. So I would recommend that if you haven't played Gloomhaven at all before, you start with the Doom Crushers here. You're gonna have the Cragheart and the Brute going out there. They're both really strong characters. So what you want to do is click the start button and let's get going. And now you want to choose difficulty normal, because that's really hard if you go up on the other levels. Okay, so we started here with some introductory welcome mercenaries. You can read this on your own, of course, when you're playing. And you will also see that there's some boss out here that we need to beat. We need to get over there. And so we start the adventure. Now the adventure works like this. This is it's called a journey mode or an adventure mode. This did not exist in the board game, so even if you play the board game, you might be confused when you enter this as well. The thing is, you get 3 options all the time. You can go on 3 different journeys, and they are color coded. So green is the easiest one, and then you have the medium in the orange, and the red one is hard. You also see some information here to the right. You can see the difficulty is hard, and you can see run length 3 scenarios. It means that you're going to do 3 different dungeons to make it all the way to Mistfell Corpse in this case. And when you do, you will get an reward of 32 gold, 56 XP, and the 3 items showing here. But you want to go for these easy ones to start off. And as your characters will level up and get stronger, you will get better items and so on. You can start taking on the medium and then the hard ones. So what you do is you click this green path here, the journey to Burn Tavern. It's going to ask you to start a journey, and you will click yes. And then you need to wait a bit, and it's loading. And here you have the first stop on the journey. So you can still scroll out, you can see the world map and all that. You see that you came from Wayward. This is the starting location for adventurers. And then you have, and you can even buy items and so on in here. We can go into Wayward, and you can see that there's the general store with items here, but we don't have any gold in the start, of course. And we have the cured hide. And so we exit shop and we leave Wayward, and we will head off to Den of Racers, which is the first dungeon, the first scenario you will face on your journey to Burn Tavern. So this is the first one. You can see this has a run length of 2 scenarios. This is the first one you're going to face. Sometimes you get an option on which scenario you want to do, and that doesn't matter. You can do any of them, and then you will still lead to whatever goal you are going for. So we're going to travel to destination, which means that we travel on the road, and we might get an encounter, just like we did there. That's a random. And there's some texts here. We get a choice to choose. We can loot some bodies, we can bury bodies. I'm not going to do any of this. I don't want to spoil anything for you. You can do that on your own. But then we end up in the Den of Racers. And now we get the option to adventure. So we are in the dungeon and we're ready. What I tend to do is I like to scroll out a bit. You can scroll out like this. I like to have it somewhere in between here, not too close, so you get an overview of the map. You can also rotate using either Q and E on your keyboard. You can move by using WSAD, of course, or the arrow as well. And you get an option here in the beginning on where you want to start. So in this case, we have the Brute selected. We could select the Cragheart instead, and then we can choose where we want to start. So we can choose depending on how much we need to move in order to attack the enemy. So let's say the Cragheart will start over there, and the Brute might start over there. Now the Cragheart, we start with him. He has his cards here. This game is card driven. It's the fun of the game, the mechanism of the game is to figure out how to use these cards at the best. We can also check out some other stuff here. We can see here his modifier decks. If we hover over the swords, so that we can see he has 1 0. Well, I can't move the mouse when I do this, but he has 1 0, 1 -2. He has, what is it, 5 -1s, 6 or 5 zeros, and then some +1s, +2, and some x2, which is critical, where you get double the amount of damage that he would do. So if you have a card like this one here, says attack 3, then when you use that card, he will attack for 3, but then that will be modified depending on which of these modifier cards you randomly draw. But let's say that you do 2 attacks during your turn, or over several turns. As long as you don't draw the miss or the critical, you will keep drawing. So let's say you draw a -2, then that -2 card is gone. So the next attack you will not be able to draw that, which is good in this case. But once you draw a miss or the critical, then you will reshuffle your cards. But that's happening automatically in the digital game, of course. He also has some items. He doesn't have any helmet, any armor, any boots, but he does have a war hammer. And this is two-handed, as you can see on the icon there. So that's why it takes up both of his hands. And this one you can use one time, because it has a little white card and an X. So one time during each dungeon, each scenario, you can use this to add stun to the entire attack action. And when it says the entire attack action, it could mean that you can do an attack that, like this one, would target all adjacent enemies. So you will attack more than one enemy, but the stun will happen during the whole attack. Anyhow, let's get into choosing a card. Now, when we choose a card, we have a number there to the left, and the number will determine how quickly we will move. That's the initiative. So we will have a number on our cards, and the enemies will have a number of their cards, and whoever goes, lower number will go first, which is often the case. You want to go first, so you can maybe stun your enemies or defeat them before they get a chance to hurt you. You will pick 2 cards, and you will do the bottom part of one card and the top part of another card. So let's say I would go for this one here, and I'm planning to do the bottom part, which is a move 2, and all adjacent allies and enemies suffer 1 damage. And then I pick a top card, and now that I got a low card here, I can pick anything here because it's the 29 that's gonna count. I think I want to do maybe this ranged attack here, a Dirt Tornado, attack 1, range 2, so that's how far away you can do it, and then this will also muddle the enemies and allies that are in the targeted area. Muddle means that's a sort of status effect which will last for 1 round, and that means that they will be worse at attacking you back because they will have to draw 2 modifier cards and choose the worst. So anyhow, let's do the Dirt Tornado. Now, if I wanted to go late now, I could just click this little 82 here, and you see the glow there. Now I'm on 82 instead, as indicated up here as well. But I do want to go quickly, so let's have 29. Now the Brute needs to choose 2 cards. I think he might do, let's see, he might do a Shield Bash here. And he could do an attack with attack 3 and push 2. And then we will end the selection. And now we will get to see what the enemies will do. So we see that the Bandit Guard, he's going to go on a 15. So he's going to go, he has the same number as the Brute, but in that case we break ties. So he will go after the Brute, he will do a shield of 1 and then an attack of 2, and he will also add poison to that attack, which means he will poison whoever he strikes. Poison means that later on, if you are poisoned, you will take 1 extra damage when hit. And the only way to get rid of poison is to heal, so it's quite tricky. The Bandit Archer here, he has a 56, so he's going to go last in order, as we can see up here. He's going to do an attack of 1 at range 3 and target 2. He will hit both of us basically, if he can, if we are within his range of 3. But he's not going to move at all. None of them are going to move actually, depending on which card they draw here. So we continue. And now the Brute is going to move. And now to have him move, as you can see, we have no movement here on our cards. There's no move effects. But you can always use the cards for their standard action. So if you want to do the bottom action up here, that could be 2 movement. And you can also use it for 2 attack as a standard action. But remember, we have to do the bottom of one card and the top of another. So what we will do is we will take this one and do a 2 move, like that. And then we will move up to this guy. We need to mark that spot. We could double click or confirm movement. I do like to just double click there. Now he has more movement left, so we need to skip movement since we don't want to move anymore. And then we can do the attack 3 with a push 2. Push means that after the attack, he can push the enemy away. In some cases, there's traps on the ground, and you can push enemies into those traps, which is awesome. So he's going to attack here. We just mark this guy here and we can confirm the target, or we can just double click once again. Now up there it went really fast, but it was a little white, in white there, +1, which means that the brute now, if we look at his attack modifier deck, we can hover over him or over his swords. We can see that one of the +1s that he had is now gone. It's grayed out. It's really small, but you can see that one of the +1 cards is now grayed out. That's already used. So he can't get that +1 again. He still has 4 other ones, and he will reshuffle sooner or later when he hits that miss or the critical. But for now, that's the case. And now we're going to end his turn. Now we can see that the enemy here, he took some damage, so he is down to 1 health. Now it's time for this, what's it called, Bandit Guard to do his thing. He was shielding himself, which meant he gets an armor that can protect him. And he tries to attack for 2, but this guy didn't have any enemies next to him, so he couldn't do the attack. So he only did the shield part. This guy, however, had that, and he attacked the brute for 2. And I didn't actually catch which modifier was used there, but we can hover over him and see here that he got a 0, because one of the zeros are grayed out. So he got a 0 and he attacked for 2. That means that it was 2 damage that was dealt. As you can see here, 2 damage on the brute. Now when we get damage, we get to choose. Do we want to receive the damage, which will lower our health? We can burn 2 discarded cards. I haven't talked about how the burning works yet, but I'm going to get into that now. So we can burn 1 available card. If we look at his cards here, 2 of his cards are grayed out. That's the cards that he used just a minute ago, and that means that they were used and they are grayed out. Grayed out means that they were used, so they are in his discard, but they are not burnt. He will be able to get these back by resting later on. But when you do a card like, let's see, get an example here soon, if I can find one here. The Overwhelming Assault. The top part of this card has an attack 6, and it will also give him 2 XP. But as you can see in the bottom right corner of that part of the card, there's a little white symbol with some flames on it. That means that when he uses this card, it will be burned. That means that it's gone. It's out of this mission, this adventure, this dungeon. He cannot use that again, which also means he will also lose the move 3, push 2 ability on the bottom part, because he will lose the whole card. If he were to do the bottom part, move 3, push 2, then he won't lose that card. He will get it back when he rests, and then he can do the attack 6 later on. So now, do we want to take 2 damage, or we could burn one of the available cards that he already has, that he could use later on, or burn 2 of his discarded card, those 2 cards that he just used. Now in this case, I think we're just going to take the damage, but if you're getting a lot of damage and you're about to die, then you might have to start burning cards, which means also that your adventure will end that much sooner, because that's also your life meter. You have 2 life meters in this game, which is a bit special. It could be hard to grasp when you're new to Gloomhaven, but you can lose, your character can die of not having 2 cards to play at the start of his or her turn, or by going to 0 in health. We're going to take 2 damage, which we see here indicated, 2, and he's down to 10. He also got poison, which means that he will take an extra damage from now on until he heals. Well, an extra damage when he gets hit. So, we're on to the Cragheart. Now, he has a healing ability range 2, so he could heal and remove that poison from the brute. But we're going to use him to attack instead. So, we are going to do this Dirt Tornado. And it's going to be an attack 1 of range 2, and it's going to hit all the targets like this, indicated on these hexes out here. This also could be boosted if there were Earth Magic, the green leaf symbol in the air. He could use that to get +1 attack and 1 XP. Over here to the right, we see if there's any magic in the room. There's none right now. If he were to use this move 2, then he would put Earth Magic into the room, but that would happen at the end of his turn. So at his next turn, then he could use that Earth Magic to boost this ability. So you can set things up like that. Anyhow, let's do the Dirt Tornado, and now we get to pick the target. And as you can see, this moves around like a big grid. We are going to target that guy so that all those enemies will be hit. And then we confirm targets. And we will have different modifiers on all that. So it's an attack of 1 in this space, but they all had different modifiers, right? Because he used his modifier cards. So his +2 is gone, and we also see some +1s, and some zeros and so on are gone. They were used to hit these enemies out here, and they all got lowered health. They also got muddled, this little white thingy here that indicates muddle, negative condition. Now when they attack next time, they will have to draw 2 modifier cards and use the worst of the 2. But that's automatically handled. Now we can move for 2, or we can just do a standard move, but we want to move for 2 because all adjacent allies and enemies suffer 1 damage where he lands. So if we go here, he will actually damage his friend here, the brute. So I think we're going to go this way instead. We also want to go this way because he will end up on a space that has gold in it. Now when an enemy dies, there will be gold on the ground. In this case, there's some gold here to start off with. And if you end your space in, or if you end your movement in a space that has gold, well, first he's going to jump and do 1 damage, but then he will pick up the gold. And that gold can later on be used, as you saw in the vendor earlier. You can use that to buy new items and so on. Now the archers are having their way here, dealing some damage, and that's 2. We'll have to take that damage. And that is not going to be any damage at all because he has a -1 and he's attacking with 1, so that's a 0 attack. So when everybody has done their thing, we end the round and we start a new round. And now you will see that the brute here, 2 of his cards are gone. We did use them last round, so they are in the discard pile. We can't use them now. He could do a rest to get them back. I'm going to explain rest while we're at it. If you do a long rest, then that has an initiative number of 99, which means it's you will go last in that round. And during that long rest, you will heal 2 on yourself, and you will refresh all of your spent item cards, but you have to burn 1 card, and you get to choose which card you burn. If you do a short rest, you are ready to go right away. You don't heal, and you will lose 1 of those cards. You will burn 1 of those discarded cards at random. I'm actually going to do it just to demonstrate it now. You don't want to do this early normally, but... So we're going to perform a short rest, and now this of his 2 used discarded cards, the warding strength was randomly picked. And now if he burns this, then that's out of the dungeon. But he could do a redraw, which will do 1 damage to himself, and then he will get another random card that was discarded. In this case, it would be the shield bash because he only has another card there. But let's say he burns this one. Now he will get the shield bash back and it will go into place there. So now he has all these cards, but this card is burned. He can't get that back. So that's sort of how you manage your hand, which is really fun in this game. And that's one of those ways to lose, is if all your cards are gone. Now the way to avoid that is to not always use that super action like this attack 4 with stun 2 XP. Because if you do, you will lose that card. Instead, you might even take this card and use it as an attack, but as a normal attack, not as that printed effect, just to save it for later. So in this case, I think he's going to do one of his special things here. He has some boots of striding that during his movement add +2 move to a single movement. So he's going to do the provoking roar just to get a low number basically, but also to attack 2 and disarm. That's the top action, and then he's going to do the bottom action of trample, which is at 72, but we're only looking at one of the card's numbers for the initiative. And this is going to let him do a bottom action which will burn the card, but he's going to move forward with the jump. Jump means that you can move through enemies, you can move through obstacles, and he's going to attack for 2, target all enemies moved through, and he will also get 2 XP. And he will boost this with his boots, but we do that later. We just choose the cards now. Then we have the Cragheart, and let's say the Cragheart is probably going to do something like... He could do a attack 2 with range, so he could do the ranged attack. And then the bottom part, I think we want to have him... Let's see, we could have him move, I guess, a move for 3. So that's my planning. But then again, depending on what the enemies will do, you don't need to do that thing that you planned out. You might do something different with those cards. Use another top or another bottom action than you planned at first, depending on what happens in between. Now the bandit guard is going to move on, attack for 2, range 2. He's going to do a range attack, and the archer is going to move on and do attack for 3, range 3. Okay. So the brute is up first, and I think he will start off by doing his attack 2 and disarm. Now disarm means that this guy that he hits cannot attack this turn. He can still move, but he won't do the attack because he's disarmed. Then he will do his special thing here, move 4, and this will burn the card, as you can see down here in the corner. And he will also, now you get a chance, because the boots are glowing, you can click them, and now that will add 2 to his movement. So he can go 1, 2, 3. No, can't go this way. you can undo waypoints. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, I can't do this. Let's see. Let's undo the whole waypoint here. So we have 6 movement. How would I do this? The thing is, the Cragheart is sort of in the way. But if we had planned this smarter, we could have had the Cragheart go first, so he could have moved. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so you can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and get back. But he can't move through all the enemies because the Cragheart was in the way. And now that since he moved through all these 3 guys, he can do a confirm attack, and he will attack all 3 of them, killing 2. That was a good attack, and as you can see, now we get some gold on the ground that we can pick up later if we end our movement in that space. Or if we use a loot card. There's also cards that has the effect loot. And it could say loot 1 or loot 2. It's the range on how much you will loot. You will loot in all directions. So you can loot a lot of gold that way. Now I'm going to show you the Earthen Clod here. And since he put some earth magic into the air, as you can see on the right side, on the last round, now he can boost this attack, and you can click this to add immobilize, which means that the enemy cannot move. And then he will attack this guy, I think over here. And that's a -2, so he survived, but now he is immobilized, which means, well, he's both, now he can't move anywhere. And then we can move for 3, so we can just move out of the way here. And we will end his turn, and that's the end of the round. So I think I'm going to stop here, but I think you've seen a bit on how to play Gloomhaven, the basics. There's a lot of things to be added, of course, a lot of effects and so on. If you have any questions, you can always hit me up on @BGW_Niramas on Facebook or Twitter. Just ask away if you have any questions about the game. I'm happy to help people out. I just love this game, and I'm happy to share my excitement for it. So, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please click the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Have a great evening or morning whenever you're watching. Take care. Bye-bye.
Be like Draco. Follow Board Games with Niramas on Facebook @BGW Niramas.